So I have been working in Liberia off and on, probably for almost since about 2006, 2008. And we previously did some work with the UN, with UNMIL, the mission in Liberia, for the Human Rights and Protection section. And through the person I was working with there, she introduced us to Richard, who was at the time working for the Liberian Institute of Statistics. And we worked together on a long-winded core welfare indicators survey and with a human rights and disability component, and that was the start of the discussions. We decided to try and expand some of the research, some of the information that was coming out of that survey into a research proposal, which was what we put together for the SRC.
This project is very pivotal to transforming the socio-economic conditions of persons with disability in Liberia. And how are we going to achieve viable and meaningful impact in Liberia? One is to bring all partners together, the government, members of the disabled organizations, in the process of policy formulation. Initially, during the formulation of the national human rights, national action plans for human rights in Liberia, some components of the work of Maria were inculcated into the National Human Rights Action Plan. Now, we do envisage that key findings from this current study will feed into the future updates of the National Human Rights Action Plan and other future policies that will be meant to ameliorate the conditions of persons with disability in Liberia.
I think we've been really lucky because of the long-standing partnership we've worked. Our partners include the University of Liberia, but I should say that we're also very fortunate that Richard has subsequently moved from his Institute of Statistics to now he's in the Ministry of Labour. Yeah, so we're very good that Richard has a double-hatted position both at the university and the ministry, which gives us a very good access. And we've also have a research partnership with the National Union of Disabled People of Liberia. Again, this is all building on the partnerships and the work we had done previously. So I think that's something that I've really learned from this research, is the importance of, I think we've had a really consistent, we've been going back, working with the same people, building on previous components of the work we've done and really trying to make the research, as Richard has alluded to, relevant to the context in Liberia. When we started this, we knew there was a human rights component in the poverty reduction strategy in Liberia, and that people with disabilities have been very central in that. There's a very vibrant and active disability community, probably in urban areas really. I think in rural areas, as you know, Liberia is an incredibly poor country. And I think part of the reason that we're really interested about our results is because from the core welfare indicator survey, we saw some of the sort of patterns that were emerging, but we wanted to understand a bit more the comparison between households of people with disabilities and non-disabled people. And really, in a country where everyone's poor, it's trying to really understand those very nuanced, what have people have access to things and what not. And what do people really understand? That some of the results of the core welfare indicator survey really showed a huge difference between expectations and reality around the current situation in Liberia, which I think was really a big shock. We spoke about this yesterday about things like electricity. People would want to have a television when they haven't even got an electricity supply. So there's a vast expectation and reality gap. And I think that was something, we really wanted to try and understand better how, perhaps to help the government in terms of thinking, okay, if you want to improve development for people, what are those step changes that need to be done, and how will you assist all people to feel they're benefiting from it?
And that is the reason why, at the very inception of this project, the government is brought on board. And key stakeholders from the National Union of Persons with Disability and the National Commission of Persons with Disability is also on board. The University of Liberia is a key research partner. And this is very much important to create synergy in terms of creating the platform for policy formulation and implementation. And Maria told me yesterday that I play a pivotal role in this light because I've been involved in the processes of dissemination of data in Liberia, especially the national census, the National Labor Force Survey, National Child Labor Survey. So giving such a role, especially disseminating results, not just to ordinary citizens, but to government officials, to the cabinet. And this is meant to make sure that high-level individuals do understand results emanating from surveys and how they themselves can form part of the process of advocacy.
Actually, certainly for me, one of the well, we can share this one, I think. It is about the impact at the university level, actually. When we started off, it was mentioned yesterday about having short-term consultancy contracts with individuals in universities, and that's certainly how we started this project. But actually, we changed that quite early on, and we realised that really to build capacity of the university, and I think the university have been incredibly supportive of this. So we've changed to have an agreement with the university at the faculty level, and that I think has made a big difference to how the project's seen within the university, and also building capacity within the university, both about research around disability issues, but research more generally. We've spoken a lot about building the capacity with the partners at the university, but also about engagement with the university in terms of disabled students at the university. And so for me, that I think has been that's a change that I'm really happy that's happened even at this early stage.
Yes, and another change that I do see is the ability to bring two major players when it comes to the affairs of persons with disability in Liberia: the National Union of Persons with Disability and the National Commission of the Disabled in Liberia. Previously, there was a situation of, let me say, weaker coordination, but we have endeavored to bring them together on the same table to focus on not just this project, but how they can collaborate in advocating for the collective welfare of persons with disability, which I do see to be very much important. And apart from that, the project has also trained manpower to some extent. We have trained people, university graduates, when it comes to the processes of data collection, especially doing impact evaluation and using control group and treatment groups, because the survey methodology really works towards dealing with two separate sets of households. We do envisage collecting information from households having persons with disability and households that do not have persons with disability. And obviously we're going to compare socioeconomic characteristics and how they do differ. And it has been very much interesting because the participants, those who we recruited, have learned a lot. We all do. It is actually interesting, and I must commend the team from the University College of London and the Leonard Cheshire Disability and Inclusive Development Center.
Very good.
For doing this, and it is we're happy. Yeah.
I think the other important thing to say about that is we also included people with disabilities in the research teams, and that's also been something we really wanted to try and make it genuinely inclusive. And I think that's been also a lesson for people, both sides, perhaps who hadn't traditionally had that opportunity to work together, bringing people together from the disability community and from the academic community at the national level has been really, really helpful, and I hope will be beneficial.